Hi, it's Colin Coward. I started The Volume to bring you some of the most authentic voices in sports. While you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks.
So let's start with the match play. I actually think it's very relatable because most people, once you start playing golf, you get a buddy, whatever club you go to, whatever public course you go to, with your group, with the guys you play with, eventually you're going to play some match play. And it's a very relatable format because it allows you to get a double, triple bogey. No one cares. You only drop a shot. It's what makes this tournament so unique. A guy that would normally shoot, 74, but he also had 5 birdies, can easily, you can have a quad. It doesn't matter. You just pick up. You won. And the best part about golf, unlike football or baseball or basketball, those games never change all season long. Yet in the sport of golf, you have different formats, right? You have just stroke play, which is the majority of the time. Then you get the President's Cup, the Ryder Cup, some team events. And then you get a unique format like this in match play, which is obviously very, very popular in the amateur world. That's how the U.S. amateurs played. That's how a lot of college golf tournaments, the National Championship for team golf, that's the way it's played. And I think it's a fun watch. It's different. Now, there's risk involved because I saw a stat that 2 of the top 16 last year advanced to the Sweet 16. For the most part in the NCAA tournament, think who's still alive, right? UCLA, hell, even North Carolina. I know they're an 8 seed, but Gonzaga, Duke, Purdue, you got Arizona. You still got a lot of... Now, you got the occasional St. Peter's. But a lot of times what can happen in match play is you look up and a lot of lower-seeded guys are playing on Saturday and Sunday. For the most part, when you get a field of this level in stroke play, if Austin Country Club this week was just a stroke play event, I would imagine 4 of the top 15 guys would be in the mix come Sunday, minimum. Where in the match play, there's a chance we get a Final Four where there ain't one guy in the Final Four that's a top 20 player. Now, as a golf nerd, I find that cool, but I get from the television partners and from golf, it can be a little risky. It's why they don't do a true March Madness, one and done, because you could get to Friday and everyone's gone. This is the right way to do it, group stage, like World Cup style. So you guarantee Dustin Johnson's, the Koepkas, the Justin Thomas's, the Spieths, 3 rounds. But come Saturday, there is a decent chance that 10 of the 16 names are not needle movers. And by the time we get to the Final Four, it was always really risky with Tiger. He could just get bounced very early. And the times have changed a little bit, right? The depth of talent is way bigger than when Tiger played. But obviously, he's bigger than anyone playing now. But they just have more names, more, I would say, universal to sports fans. So I enjoy this week. And my picks, I think Justin Thomas and Xander, if you want to take 2 guys that are, near the top in terms of odds. Partly is the bracket. Love Xander's path to the Final Four. I think Justin Thomas, I'm tempted to put $500 on him for the Masters at 13, 14 to 1. I think there's a chance him and Bones dominate and win the Masters by a couple shots because he's hitting the ball as well as anyone right now, and his short game is elite. It's just about making putts. And when I say short game, I mean chipping and putting. I have a bet on Victor Hovland. I don't feel that great about it. He can't chip. He's a terrible chipper. I was watching him last week at where'd they just play? The Snake Pit, Islesworth. I mean, he's just a bad chipper. Now, if he hits every green, maybe he can do it, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I like Justin Thomas this week, like Xander this week. I like Alex Noren in general, and he has a lot on the line. He's 56 right now, and top 50 gets into the Masters, but his group's hard. Casey, Oosthuizen. I mean, it's a tough. Corey Connors, elite ball striker, not a great putter, but it's just going to be hard for him to make it out. Terrell Hatton, if he can just beat Daniel Berger, I think at 33 to 1. The reason I like Noren, if he does get out of the group at basically 60, 55 to 1, the odds have moved a little bit on FanDuel, but I mean he's got win equity for a guy that's, quote quote-unquote a long shot. And then some super sleepers would be like Mav McNeely is a guy that, you could look up and just be in the Final Four at 90-1. Taylor Gooch is in DeChambeau. DeChambeau, I saw he said today in his press conference, he can't even swing full because of the wrist. So this is a guy that hasn't played competitively in feels like forever. So I'm not expecting much out of him. I think Taylor Gooch wins that group pretty easily. And then it's just, Rahm, DJ, Koepka are guys that could win their groups. And, can he take those? Does one of those guys get upset? Does DJ even care? Is Koepka super locked in? Though Koepka just played pretty well last week. So Gooch, Maverick McNeil, Neely, and Brian Harmon's another guy I like. Because I do think, unlike the NCAA tournament, I do like picking guys in the middle to lower tier in this thing. You can't just hammer the Rahms, the Dustin Johnsons, because that's not the way it plays out. You look up last year, it's Billy Horschel against Scotty Scheffler. And at the time, Scotty Scheffler wasn't exactly Scotty Scheffler. So times change. And speaking of Scotty Scheffler, it looked, and it still does, to be a great American golfer right now is really, really hard. And ultimately, I think as a great American golfer, you're judged on your world ranking, but are you playing on the President's Cup team and definitely the Ryder Cup team? And last year, our Ryder Cup team was stupid. I mean, it was beyond stacked, right? I mean, the last couple guys were like Harris English and Daniel Berger. And I asked Sobel, where the hell has Harris English been? He hurt his hip, I guess, at the waste management. He's been injured. But to me, Harris English isn't going to be on the President Cup to this team. Tony Finau is in shambles right now. He's not going to be on the President Cup team right now. Scotty Scheffler won 2 tournaments the last month. Sam Burns has 3 wins in the last year. These guys are locks to be mainstays. Bryson DeChambeau, who is making his return this week, 1 is injured, 2 is not very high on just the FedEx list right now. He hasn't been playing. And 3, are we sure he ain't just going to go to the Saudi League? Because I'll tell you this, if they're paying $3.5 million, I don't care if they broadcast the thing on YouTube, on Instagram, it don't matter. I think Bryson DeChambeau has a very, very good chance of ending up in that league because he's a money guy. He's obsessed with money, Phil's in his ear, and I think there's a decent chance. So to me, Sam Burns and Scotty Scheffler, aren't just locks to be on the team. They're going to be top 5 or 6 players potentially on this team. We see DJ, Koepka. I mean, we'll see. Now the major's coming up. Easily one of these guys could rattle off a major, but Bryson's health, DJ's just overall play, and I don't even know if he cares. And Brooks just needs to continue to play better. But, Morikawa a lock. Spieth had a really good season last year. We'll have to see moving forward, how's it going to go in the majors? Is he going to be a top 5 guy at the Masters like he was last year? Because if he is, then he'll be around. Xander's not going anywhere. JT's a lock to be a top 2 or 3 player on that team. But we got a lot of moving parts in terms of team golf, which is fun because the talent is so elite. Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, these guys are blue chippers. I would bet on both those guys winning a major in their career. Do you know how hard it is to win a major in your career? You know how good of a golfer you are if you're just I'm a major champion? Adam Scott, his career is going to end with 1 major. Do you know how fucking good Adam Scott is at golf? How many majors does Sergio win? Last I checked, 1, the Masters. And Sergio Garcia, it's really, really hard to win these majors. I think John Rahm's going to win 10, but he's only got 1. He doesn't win that many tournaments. I love John Rahm. But is he going to rattle off 10, or is he more likely to win 3? Love Justin Thomas. Think he's going to be an all-timer. Is he more likely to win 3 or 6? You'd probably say 3. I think he's got a chance to go down as one of the greats. But these guys, and listen, I'm not here to bag on the older guys, but it was just easier to win them. And I love Lee Trevino, love Jack and Arnie, but the fields weren't as deep. Hell, Tiger, I think's my greatest athlete I've ever seen. Right there with Michael. And his competition was there were 10 legit guys, really 5, 6 that he had to really worry about. Now you got to worry about 25. So I props to Sam Burns, who won that tournament. It's just hard, man. It's hard to be a guy like Davis Riley, who is a stud from Alabama, dominated on the Corn Ferry. He's going to be on the PGA Tour for a long time. First time you get into contention, I said this the other day on the football pod. It's so much easier to hunt. It's so much easier to be the chase. The guy chasing the Patriots. The team chasing the Chiefs. It's another thing to be the Chiefs and the Patriots. Everybody gunning for you. Think about being Alabama. Every week, literally every team they've played for 7, 8, a decade, it's been the biggest game on their schedule. 13 games a year are the other team's biggest game of the schedule by a mile. Yet for Alabama, they have like 2 or 3 of the biggest games out of the 13, and beside the playoff games, right? So it is so much harder to be at the top of the mountaintop and have everyone gunning for you. And speaking of being at the top of the mountaintop, Phil Mickelson's a good life lesson of how fast, and listen, as someone that talks for a living and can just say a lot of crazy things, now I believe everything I say, but sometimes I can just get flowing, and it's like, I should probably be careful about what I said. I've definitely changed my Twitter strategy, not because I give a shit, but just because it's not worth it. Less than 9% of society's on it. It's such a small group, tiny percentage. I think like 3% of active users actually tweet. It's such a small subset. It's not like you're playing to the masses. It's the least powerful of all the big social media brands by a mile. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok blow it out of the water in terms of users and the amount of people there. But Twitter, because it's the written word, it feels so loud. It's actually not that loud. It's why when you turn it off and you go into society, no one's talking about it. And it's just like, what am I gaining out of this? Talking shit to some quack job weirdo. It's pointless. Now, I am guilty. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll, get into spats or whatever, but there's not much point to it. And Phil, obviously said things that, there's a difference between arguing with someone on Twitter and saying things about Saudi Arabia, people dying, and human atrocities, right? And he clearly got over his skis, and he got cocky. And I think sometimes I never feel I'm the smartest guy in the room. I know I'm not. I'm a state school guy. I have to out work you. I'm not going to necessarily outthink you. Maybe I got common sense, but intellectually, like you get into a room with the people Phil's in the room with, Phil's probably never the smartest guy in the room. But I think you spend enough time around him, and because he's such a great golfer, everyone starts kissing your ass. You start believing that. Now, who knows? And maybe it could happen to any of us, right? Even those of us that acknowledge, like, most rooms where we walk into, we're not the smartest guy in the room. But if I'm one of the richest guys in the room and everyone's kissing my ass, you start thinking you are. And clearly, I think Phil kind of fell under that. And he's made these statements, and he thought the PGA Tour screwing him, even though everyone's making buku bucks. And now he's ruined his image, which he literally spent decades building up as Phil Mickelson. That was his image. You just said Phil Mickelson, and he resonated with everybody. There's a reason these corporations put their brands and their names behind the guy. And now they're all pulled out. He is, he can say he's not showing up to the Masters. I'm going to make an educated guess. I think he's pseudo suspended right now, and I think Augusta, which has as much juice as the U.S. government, just Google the members there, didn't like that bullshit. They don't want a media circus of Phil Mickelson. Not in their week. That's their week of golf. And Phil Mickelson, my guess would be, was told, you're not coming, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. I don't know, because he's Phil Mickelson, 3-time Masters champion. That's a pretty crazy story. And now, and it shows you sometimes, and back to me, I talk for a living. I have to tell myself, shut up. Just shut your mouth. And I think Phil got over his skis on this one, and it's cost him. It's cost him a lot of money. It's cost him just a lot of, I don't know, popularity is probably the wrong word, but just, it cost him the ability to go to the Masters. He's not even welcomed at the Masters, where he's won 3 times. He's not a one-time random champion. He's won the thing 3 times. He built his logo off him jumping up when he first won the tournament. And now I think the question is, does he go to the PGA Championship where, he's the defending champion? Wild, man. It's just it's crazy part. It's the crazy and great part about sports is it is truly reality television show. You cannot make this stuff up. In 2021, Phil wins a major. He's a assistant captain on the Ryder Cup team. He's partying with the boys. By March 2022, he's not welcome at the Masters. He's disappeared. No one's seen him. And he's not welcome everywhere. And beside his country clubs, and all of his sponsors have yanked their logos off them, which is, again, I say overall, I love Phil Mickelson, and it's just sad. He's been a fantastic ambassador for the sport because of his passion and love for the game. And now it feels like he's screwed himself, and now he's being shunned, and he's not welcome. He's not welcome right now, which is pretty nuts. And last but not least, the power of, well before I was born, like the 50s and 60s, the power of audio was huge, right? Radio's peak was like 60s, 70s, 80s. Every single human had a radio. And the audio is still very, very powerful. But it competes now with video. And video is even more powerful than audio. And what Netflix has done, one, just as a company, it completely changed the game. Linear TV, cable TV now is hanging on by a thread. And it's like podcasts. Like it is the local radio where I live in the Bay Area. I got a text yesterday from someone on the inside. It's like, we are getting destroyed. No one's listening. The business model might go under because things change. And luckily with television, these networks still have PGA Tour golf, NBA, NFL, baseball. You still have enough content that enough people still watch. It's not going anywhere. But Netflix, Hulu, all these stream, Apple Plus, is that it? Disney, maybe it's Disney Plus, Apple TV. They're powerful, and they're taking all my money, and I don't even watch half of them. But I can speak to the Netflix documentary on the F1, Drive to Survive. It hasn't drove me to wake up early and watch these Formula One races, but I know what's going on, and I pay attention. And I think the Drive to Survive series is elite. The content is fantastic. And there was this tweet thread today from this guy, I think he covers F1, and the power that the Netflix documentary and series, I guess it's not a documentary, it's just a series, maybe it's a documentary, I don't know really what category you'd put it in, has had domestically in America. Because forever, they thrived internationally, but no one cared here. So they couldn't get any of our big corporations to sign on. Well, now the television ratings in America have skyrocketed, now partly because the bar was low, but now a lot of people watch these races over the weekend. So now American companies just gravitate where people are. You want to advertise where the consumer is, right? The reason the NFL makes so much money, because they have so many people watching. This isn't a very complicated strategy. The more people you have watching, the higher your media rights go, the higher those networks then can charge advertising, and everyone can make money. That is the business model. So the more people that gain interest in Formula One because of Netflix, the business has boomed. And golf is starting way ahead of Formula One, in America, obviously. I mean, they had, on a good non-major, gets 3.5, 4 million people to watch. But what is on the line with this show, and you're not going to be able to parallel Drive to Survive, but to have some legit storylines, have some behind the ropes. I mean, that thing was it last week or 2 weeks ago when Victor Hovland and Daniel Berger, these are two of the best players in the world, arguing over the line of sight, and Victor Hovland's like, yeah, I don't agree with that. And if you can get that, but to me, we all saw that. What about after? Can you get Daniel Berger on camera and on the mic and go, that's bullshit, and start talking some shit? Because that is what Drive to Survive has. Two guys talking shit about each other. Can you get some agents on talking shit about each other? Can you get some coaches on talking shit about each other? Because to me, that is the differentiating factor. And if you can create some edginess is probably the wrong word, but just what's really there, animosity. These people we're all humans. We don't like other people, and we like certain people. There are going to be people on tour that don't like other people. It's a little different in the Formula One because there's only 20 drivers, and there are only 10 teams. There are way more guys. But you should be able to find some pretty unique content that really works and draws people that are kind of interested, that play golf every once in a while. Like, I want to watch this. I don't think it's inconceivable if this thing is done right. Now, it might not just be the first season. It might take a couple seasons. But to, increase television ratings by 50%, get a lot of new people. There is a lot of competition right now. No one just goes, I'm going to watch every baseball game anymore. Those days are dead. We see the NBA ratings. There's only one sport that truly gets us all because we really just have to watch it one day a week. It's easy to consume. Golf, you can kind of come in and out, but it's also just basically when the Networks need to watch Saturday, Sunday. They don't really care about Golf Channel on Thursday, Friday. That's add-on. Or me watching at my desk on ESPN+. They want you watching Saturday, Sunday. Well, here's what I know. People consume sports on Saturday and Sunday. It's called college football in the NFL. Number 1 and 2 sport in America. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Netflix to just get this right. And luckily, they've had a lot of success doing shows like this. It's not even just Netflix. It's on the people doing it. It's also on the players kind of letting their guard down. And it might take a year. Like this series, this first one might just be okay, and it might be the next one that catapults it. But I do think there's a chance that this can be like a springboard to a huge growth in the interest in the sport domestically. At least I'm hoping. As someone that loves golf, has a huge passion for golf, and now's making money talking about it. So I hope that this Netflix thing is a huge, huge success for the PGA Tour.